You know what's wild? The same people who never liked your posts, never commented on your wins, never showed up when you needed them. They're always the first ones to screenshot your failures. They watch every story. They know your business better than your own family sometimes. But they never, ever clap when you win. They're in the shadows, hoping you'll stumble. And when you do, suddenly they're front row with popcorn. I see you nodding because you know exactly who I'm talking about. That person who goes silent when you share good news, but becomes a documentary filmmaker when you mess up. The one who never celebrates your wins, but somehow always knows about your losses before you've even processed them yourself. Here's what really gets me. These aren't strangers. These are people in your orbit. Former friends, family members, colleagues, exes, people you once trusted or cared about. People who know exactly which buttons to push, because you gave them the blueprint when you thought they were on your side. And the crazy part? They don't even realize they're doing it half the time. They've convinced themselves they're just keeping it real or holding you accountable or looking out for your best interests. They've dressed up their envy in concern, their resentment in righteousness. I've been thinking about this for months now. How do you handle people who want to see you fail? How do you deal with the ones who smile in your face but pray for your downfall behind closed doors? How do you hurt them back without losing yourself in the process? Because here's the thing, reacting makes you just like them. Clapping back makes you their equal. And you're not their equal. You're better than that. But ignoring it doesn't work either. Pretending it doesn't hurt doesn't make the hurt go away. Acting like their opinion doesn't matter when it's clearly affecting your peace isn't spiritual. It's just denial with a meditation app. So how do you hurt them without breaking your peace? How do you win without becoming what you hate? How do you respond without reacting? How do you protect your energy without building walls around your heart? That's what we're talking about today. 5 power moves that will drive your haters absolutely insane while keeping your soul intact. This isn't about petty revenge or spiritual warfare disguised as healing. This is about something deeper. This is about mastery. This is about learning to dance with darkness without becoming dark yourself. Let's dance. Section 1. Smile like you know something they don't. The first move is the most devastating one, and it's also the simplest. When they try to get under your skin, when they throw their little digs, when they do that thing they do, just smile. Not a fake smile, not a bless your heart smile. A knowing smile, the kind of smile that says, I see exactly what you're doing, and it's honestly kind of cute. But let me be clear about what this smile is and what it isn't. This isn't the smile you give when you're pretending everything's fine. This isn't the smile you force when you're dying inside but trying to keep up appearances. This is the smile that comes from a place of genuine amusement at the predictability of small behavior. It's the smile you give when a toddler throws a tantrum because they can't have candy for breakfast. You're not angry at the toddler. You're not threatened by the toddler. You understand that this is just what toddlers do when they don't get their way. And that understanding creates a natural, almost loving distance between you and their chaos. I learned this in a mastermind group I was part of last year. There was this guy, let's call him Jake, who had made it his personal mission to undermine everything I said. Every idea I shared, he'd find a way to poke holes in it. Every success I mentioned, he'd downplay it. Every strategy I offered, he'd have a better one. At first, it got to me. I'd prepare for those calls like I was going to war. I'd have counter-arguments ready. I'd research his background so I could subtly undermine his credibility. I'd screenshot his contradictions so I could call them out later. I was playing his game, and I was exhausted. The worst part was that I could feel myself becoming someone I didn't like. I was becoming strategic instead of authentic, defensive instead of confident, reactive instead of responsive. I was letting his energy shape mine, and it was making me smaller. Then one day, something shifted. He made his usual condescending comment about a project I was excited about, something about how people like me didn't understand real business. And instead of defending myself, I just smiled. Not sarcastically, not dismissively, just knowingly. Like I had access to information he couldn't even comprehend. The room went quiet. He stumbled over his next words. Someone else quickly changed the subject, and for the rest of that call and every call after, his energy toward me completely changed. That smile broke something in him because it showed him I wasn't playing his game anymore. But here's what really happened in that moment. I remembered who I was. I remembered that his opinion of me had nothing to do with my reality. I remembered that confident people don't need to tear others down to build themselves up. And I remembered that I had a choice in how I wanted to show up. See, here's what most people don't understand about haters. They need your reaction. They feed off your defensiveness. They thrive on your anger. Your upset validates their behavior. Your reaction confirms their power over you. But when you smile like you know something they don't, you're essentially saying, your opinion of me is not my business, and honestly, I find your desperation kind of endearing. It's philosophical warfare. You're not meeting them on their battlefield. You're not even acknowledging that there's a war happening. You're just above it. And that drives them absolutely crazy because they can't figure out how to hurt someone who's operating from a different dimension entirely. The smile isn't submission, it's mastery. It's saying, I see you, I understand you, and I'm not threatened by you. It's the quietest form of dominance there is. Therefore, when someone tries to drag you into their misery, don't take the bait. Just smile like you know something beautiful about yourself that they'll never understand. Because you do. Section 2. Forgive them before they apologize. This one's going to sting a little, but stay with me. The second power move is to forgive them before they ever say sorry. Not because they deserve it, not because it's the right thing to do, but because waiting for an apology is like giving someone else the remote control to your inner peace. Most of us have been conditioned to believe that forgiveness is something we give to people who earn it. We think apologies come first, then forgiveness follows. We think remorse has to precede reconciliation. But this traditional approach to forgiveness keeps us trapped in cycles of resentment, waiting for people who hurt us to suddenly develop emotional intelligence they've never shown before. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people who hurt you will never apologize, not because they don't know they hurt you, but because admitting they hurt you would require them to confront parts of themselves they're not ready to face. It would require them to acknowledge their own capacity for cruelty, their own insecurity, their own brokenness. And most people would rather maintain their victim complex than take responsibility for their impact. I had a business partner once, let's call him Marcus. We built something beautiful together, and then he decided he wanted to keep all the beautiful parts and none of the responsibility. He spread lies about me to mutual contacts. He tried to steal clients. He convinced people that I was difficult to work with, unreliable, unprofessional. He basically attempted to erase me from the story of something we created together. The betrayal was surgical. He knew exactly which relationships mattered most to me, which connections were most vulnerable, which narratives would be most damaging. He used the intimacy we'd shared as business partners to craft lies that were just believable enough to plant seeds of doubt. For months I carried this rage. I crafted the perfect confrontation in my head 1,000 times. I had screenshots and receipts and a whole presentation ready for the day he'd finally have to face what he did. I was addicted to the apology I knew was coming. I was obsessed with the moment he'd have to admit what we both knew, that he'd betrayed someone who trusted him. I played out scenarios where mutual contacts would see through his lies and come back to me with apologies of their own. I fantasized about the day his house of cards would collapse and everyone would see who he really was. I was building my entire sense of justice around events that existed only in my imagination, except none of it ever came. And while I was waiting for him to acknowledge the hurt he caused, he was out there living his life, building new things, probably not thinking about me at all. Meanwhile, I was stuck in this prison of resentment, checking his social media, analyzing his every move, letting him live rent-free in my head while he had already moved on. The worst part was realizing that my anger was hurting me more than his betrayal ever did. The betrayal was a moment. The resentment was a lifestyle. The betrayal was something he did to me. The resentment was something I was doing to myself. One night I was lying in bed replaying the same old anger for the 1,000th time when it hit me. I was giving him more power over my life now than I ever gave him when we were partners. He was controlling my thoughts, my energy, my peace. And he didn't even know it. So I forgave him right there in my bedroom alone, with no witnesses and no fanfare. I forgave him not because he deserved it, but because I deserve better than carrying his karma around like a backpack full of rocks. Here's what's wild about preemptive forgiveness. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. It cuts the invisible cord that's been draining your energy and giving it to someone who hurt you. It's the ultimate act of self-respect. And here's the kicker. When you forgive someone before they apologize, you're no longer waiting for them to make it right. You're no longer dependent on their acknowledgement of your pain. You're no longer trapped in the victim role, hoping they'll validate your experience. You become the author of your own healing. Therefore, stop waiting for apologies that may never come. Forgive them for your own sake, not theirs. Forgive them so you can stop giving them free real estate in your mind. Forgive them because holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. The forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. And that's the revenge they'll never see coming. Section 3. Win the people around them. The third move is subtle but devastating. Win their circle, not through manipulation or fake charm, but through authentic connection. When someone's spreading lies about you, the best response isn't to defend yourself. It's to be so genuinely yourself around their people that the lies crumble on their own. This strategy requires patience and emotional maturity because it's not about immediate vindication. It's about playing the long game. It's about understanding that truth has a gravitational pull, but it takes time for people to feel its weight. I learned this lesson the hard way with an ex who decided that ending our relationship wasn't enough. She needed to make sure everyone we knew understood that I was the villain in our story. She was strategic about it, painting me as controlling, selfish, emotionally unavailable. She had receipts for everything, except the receipts were taken completely out of context. She'd take conversations we'd had during arguments and share them without the context of what led to the argument. She'd screenshot my frustrated texts without showing the 20 messages before where I was trying to work things out calmly. She'd tell stories about my behavior without mentioning her own actions that triggered my reactions. For a while I tried to defend myself. I'd explain my side to mutual friends. I'd provide context. I'd try to prove I wasn't the person she was making me out to be. But you know what I discovered? When you're defending yourself, you've already lost, because now you're operating from a place of scarcity and desperation. When you're explaining yourself, you're essentially validating that their version of events is worth addressing. You're giving credibility to their narrative by treating it as something that needs to be countered. You're playing defense instead of offense, and defense is always a weaker position. Then something interesting happened. Her best friend, someone who had been pretty cold to me after the breakup, reached out about a project she was working on. She was starting a non-profit and had heard I had experience in that space. We had coffee, talked about her vision, and I offered some advice. No agenda, no ulterior motive, just human connection. I didn't mention my ex. I didn't try to defend myself or explain my side of the story. I just showed up as myself, curious, supportive, genuinely interested in her project. We talked about her goals, her challenges, the impact she wanted to make. I shared resources that might help her. I connected her with people in my network who could be valuable. Over the next few months, we stayed in touch. She'd ask for my perspective on things. I'd check in on how her project was going. We built a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and shared values. I was consistent, reliable, encouraging. I celebrated her wins. I offered help during her challenges. One day, she mentioned how surprised she was by how different I was from what she'd been told. She said the person she knew didn't match the person she'd heard about. She didn't need me to defend myself or explain my side. My actions spoke louder than any explanation ever could. But here's the beautiful part. She didn't need to say anything to anyone else. Her experience of me naturally created doubt about the stories she'd been told. When my ex would make her usual comments about my character, her best friend would remember our conversations, my consistency, my genuine care for her project. Here's the thing about truth. It has a gravitational pull. When you show up authentically, consistently, with no agenda other than genuine connection, people feel it. They might not be able to articulate it, but they know they're in the presence of someone real. And here's what happens when you win someone's circle through authenticity. You don't just discredit the lies about you. You reveal something about the person telling them. Because if they were lying about you, what else might they be lying about? If they were capable of distorting the truth about someone who genuinely cared for them, what does that say about their character? The beautiful part is that you don't have to say a word against your hater. You don't have to expose them or call them out. You just have to be yourself, fully and unapologetically, and let the contrast do the work. Therefore, when someone tries to poison people against you, don't waste energy defending yourself. Instead, invest that energy in being the most authentic version of yourself around those people. Win them over, not through manipulation, but through the simple power of genuine human connection. The truth doesn't need a defense attorney, it just needs a witness. Section 4. Celebrate their wins publicly. This one's going to make you uncomfortable, but that's how you know it's powerful. The fourth move is to publicly celebrate your haters' wins, not ironically, not with backhanded compliments. Genuinely applaud their success, even when every fiber of your being wants to minimize it or ignore it. I know what you're thinking. Your ego is probably screaming right now. Why would I celebrate someone who tried to destroy me? Why would I give them any attention at all? Isn't that just feeding their narcissism? But hear me out, because this move operates on a level that your wounded ego can't understand. This isn't about them. This is about you proving to yourself and everyone watching that you've transcended the scarcity mindset that creates haters in the first place. There's someone in my industry, let's call him D, who spent months trying to undermine my work. He'd subtly discredit my ideas in group chats. He'd pitch himself to my clients by pointing out what he saw as flaws in my approach. He'd make little comments designed to make me look incompetent or outdated. Classic hater behavior rooted in the belief that there wasn't enough success to go around. The undermining was subtle but consistent. He'd wait until I shared something I was excited about, then find a way to poke holes in it. If I talked about a client win, he'd mention how he'd handled a similar situation more effectively. If I shared a strategy, he'd have a better one. He was skilled at making me look like the amateur in the room without ever directly attacking me. I could feel the poison working. Other people in our industry started treating me differently. Opportunities that should have come my way went to him instead. I started second-guessing myself, wondering if maybe he was right about my limitations. When he launched his first course, every petty bone in my body wanted to ignore it or, even better, find reasons why it wasn't that good. I wanted to pick apart his marketing, criticize his pricing, point out what I saw as flaws in his approach. My ego was hungry for any opportunity to tear down someone who had been tearing me down. But I did something that surprised even me. I bought his course. I went through the entire thing, and then I shared his launch on my story with a genuine congratulations message, highlighting what I thought was valuable about his approach. The response was immediate and unexpected. He DM'd me within an hour, completely thrown off. He thanked me and mentioned how unexpected but meaningful the support was. He said he respected how I'd handled his success and that he'd been thinking about reaching out to collaborate. His whole energy toward me shifted overnight. The subtle undermining stopped. The competitive tension dissolved. Within weeks, he was referring clients to me when they weren't a good fit for his approach. We started having genuine conversations about industry trends instead of veiled competitions. But here's the deeper truth. Celebrating his win didn't make me smaller. It made me bigger. It showed everyone watching, including myself, that I was secure enough in my own success to applaud someone else's, even someone who hadn't been kind to me. When you celebrate a hater's wins, you're doing several things at once. First, you're showing that you're not threatened by their success. Second, you're demonstrating emotional maturity that makes their previous behavior look petty and small. Third, you're often disarming them completely because they were expecting competition, not congratulations. But most importantly, you're proving to yourself that you've outgrown the zero-sum thinking that creates enemies in the first place. You're operating from abundance, from security, from a place of genuine confidence that doesn't need others to fail for you to succeed. This doesn't mean you become a pushover or pretend their previous behavior didn't happen. It means you're responding from your higher self rather than your wounded ego. It means you're choosing growth over grudges, expansion over revenge. There's something almost alchemical about this practice. When you genuinely celebrate someone who hurt you, you transform the relationship from adversarial to neutral, sometimes even to supportive. You break the cycle of negativity by refusing to participate in it. Therefore, the next time someone who hurt you achieves something, resist the urge to minimize it or ignore it. Find something genuine you can celebrate about their success, and do it publicly. Watch how it transforms not just their behavior toward you, but your own relationship with competition and success. Applauding the unworthy isn't submission. It's proof you've outgrown the game. Section 5. Keep their name out your mouth. The fifth and most powerful move is the hardest one: complete silence. Don't mention them. Don't reference them. Don't make vague posts about people who, or you know who you are. Keep their name, their energy, their entire existence out of your mouth, your content, your conversations. This is where most people fail, even when they think they're being mature about it. They'll stop the direct attacks, but continue the subtle references. The healing era subtweets, the mysterious captions about cutting off toxicity, the spiritual clapbacks disguised as growth posts. I almost fell into this trap myself last year. Someone in my space made it their mission to discredit me professionally. They were spreading rumors, questioning my credibility, trying to turn industry connections against me. For weeks, it was consuming me, and I was so tempted to address it. I had the perfect response planned. I could have destroyed their reputation with receipts and facts. I could have exposed their hypocrisy and lies in a way that would have been devastating, but technically professional. Instead, I said nothing. Publicly, privately, in group chats with friends, nothing. I didn't even mention that something was happening. I just continued doing my work, serving my clients, showing up as myself. And you know what happened? The rumors died on their own, without my reaction to fuel them, without drama to sustain the narrative. People just moved on. The person trying to destroy me ended up looking obsessed and unstable because they were the only one talking about a conflict that apparently only existed in their head. Here's the thing about silence: it's not passive. It's the most active choice you can make. Every time you resist the urge to respond, defend, or reference them, you're actively choosing your peace over their chaos. You're actively choosing to starve the drama instead of feeding it. But more than that, silence protects your energy. Every word you spend on someone who hurt you is energy you're not investing in your own growth, your own goals, your own joy. Every mental space you give them is space you're not using to create something beautiful. When you keep their name out of your mouth, you're not just protecting yourself from their toxicity. You're protecting your audience, your friends, your family from it too. You're refusing to make your pain everyone else's problem. You're taking full responsibility for your own healing without making it a public performance. Therefore, when someone tries to drag you into public drama, private conflict, or subtle warfare, your most powerful response is no response at all. Don't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Don't give them the content they need to keep the story alive. Just go quiet and watch how quickly they lose interest when there's no one to fight with. True evolution requires invisible healing, no stage, no statement, just stillness. Final section: you win when you don't need to win. Here's what I've learned after years of dealing with people who wanted to see me fail. The ultimate power move isn't revenge, it's peace. It's getting to a place where their opinion of you is so irrelevant that you don't even need to prove them wrong. You don't win by destroying your enemies. You win by outgrowing the need to have enemies at all. Think about the most successful, fulfilled people you know. Do they spend time talking about their haters? Do they engage in petty conflicts? Do they feel the need to defend themselves against every criticism? They're too busy building something beautiful to waste energy on people who want to tear it down. That's the level you're aiming for, not the level where you're better at fighting back. The level where you don't need to fight at all because you're playing a completely different game. When someone tries to hurt you and you respond with a knowing smile, you're showing them you're not threatened. When you forgive them before they apologize, you're showing them you're not imprisoned by their actions. When you win their circle through authenticity, you're showing them that truth is more powerful than lies. When you celebrate their wins publicly, you're showing them you're not threatened by their success. When you keep their name out of your mouth, you're showing them they don't have the power to make you lose your peace. Each of these moves is a demonstration of something they don't have: inner security, emotional mastery, the kind of confidence that doesn't need external validation or victories to feel whole. And that's what really drives haters crazy, not your clapbacks or your defenses or your ability to hurt them back. What drives them crazy is watching you be unshakable, watching you be happy despite their best efforts to make you miserable, watching you thrive while they're still stuck in the same bitter, competitive mindset that made them hate you in the first place. You don't raise your voice to raise your value. You don't destroy your enemies to defeat them. You just don't become one of them. The next time someone tries to drag you down, don't flinch, don't fire back. Just smile, forgive, grow, and go quiet, because the loudest revenge is living a life they can't touch and saying absolutely nothing about it. Your peace is your power, your growth is your greatest comeback, your silence is your strongest statement. Don't match their energy, master your own. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to stop reacting and start responding from your higher self, subscribe for more content on emotional mastery and conscious living. And if you've got your own stories about transforming conflict into growth, drop them in the comments. Let's build a community of people who choose peace over pettiness every single time. Don't match it, master it.